Welcome to Spirit Talks, because your spirit talks to you. Welcome to Spirit Talks. I'm Susie Beiler.
And I'm Maximilliam Haver.
And our Spirit Talk topic today is spirit guides and light beings.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy.
Well, I wanted to talk about this because I'm not sure if people are aware of how much assistance and support we have from the light realm. And every once in a while, I get these glimpses, these feelings of how much support we have. And in my imagination, I see little globes of light just everywhere. And the more I affirm that I'm supported and protected and assisted and loved, the more I have this feeling that there are so many light beings around us that most people don't see, but they're here with us, supporting us and assisting us.
Now, some people do have the gift to see these light beings. Do you know why it is that it's so few people?
I feel like that kind of sight has not been yet developed in us. We came onto the planet into such a density that our vision has been limited in this paradigm. And so the more we wake up and the more we open and the more we live through our hearts, the more in touch with this kind of thing we are. But, personally myself, I don't have third eye vision where I actually see things with my physical eyes. I just have a sense of things. I feel them and I imagine maybe what they look like, but I don't see them with my eyes.
Now, you've had a few visual or vision state experiences with them?
I have actually. When I was 5 or 6, we were in a really bad car accident, and my body flew forward in the seat, but I saw this white robed arm. It came out and held me back in the seat to probably keep me alive, because I did actually bump my head pretty hard. I see them in clouds, and I see them sometimes as flickers of light, and sometimes I'll see them or sense them, like if I'm working with a client doing body work or something. It's more of if I see them, it's usually more of a what I visualize with my third eye, not an actual physical seeing.
Is your perception of light beings different when you're channeling?
I feel, since I've been channeling, that I'm more in tune with them. I'm more in touch with them. It's not that I get to see them per se. It's more that I'm much more aware of how many there are and how much they're really protecting us and guiding us and providing support for us.
So, what sort of things do light beings do in interaction with people here on Earth?
Well, my sense is that every once in a while they come into a physical body so we can see them. I believe that sometimes they protect us, like if we're in traffic and, maybe they delay us so we're late so we miss the accident, or maybe, while we're on the road, they're, working with our vehicle to keep us safe. When I came from Pennsylvania to Sedona, I drove through Wyoming in very treacherous weather, and I just knew that there were angels all around my car guiding me, keeping me safe. There was in my little car with tractor trailers all around me on the road, and they're all going 60 on slick ice. And, I can't go slower because I'll get in a wreck. So I had to go 60, even though that was way faster than I wanted to go. But I felt their presence I really felt protected and I felt so safe. It was amazing.
So coming into bodies, interacting with people, and also intervening in interactions or choices that would bring you into different tragic situations. So preventing those things.
I believe that sometimes they're allowed to intervene in a severe circumstance, but my understanding is that usually, if we want their assistance, we need to ask for it.
Mm. So that's the most important awareness, is that you have to ask for assistance to receive it.
And that is my understanding. And I'm constantly asking for their assistance, which is why I believe that I'm sensing them more and more, because I'm really asking for their help all the time.
So what kind of light beings are there? Is it simply angels, or are there other kinds of light beings that you've experienced?
Angels, fairies, archangels, dragons. I mean, the list goes on and on. You know, I feel like there are probably some that we don't even know of or we don't have names for. Um, but I feel and sense them as a higher energy, as a higher frequency.
So is this essentially any being that's of a higher frequency that is beyond our perception in these bodies?
Well, what I call light beings are those beings that serve the highest and greatest good and that aren't necessarily in bodies. I mean, you could call us light beings because we embody a lot of light and we're in physical bodies. So it depends on how you want to define it.
Now, is there anything to be discerning with, as some receive uh, experiences that may be misleading with certain entities?
Well, not all entities serve the highest and best good.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is important to make sure you are attracting those beings that are for the highest and best good. And there is discernment in that, absolutely. Um, I think when you are living your life from that place of, I want to serve in the highest and best way, anything else that is less than that needs to leave my life. When you kind of hold that intention in your daily living, you start to attract only what is for the highest and best. And I've noticed that for myself, you know, fewer and fewer negative interactions, even with people, because my intention is that I'm living my life for the highest and best, and only those experiences that serve my growth are allowed into my life.
So, are there any energies within yourself to be aware of that might attract?
Well, that's really where the inner work is, isn't it? I mean, you know, you're going to attract whatever you magnetize to you, and you magnetize something to you if you have that within yourself. So, as I've cleared out myself, as I've done my inner work and worked to release lower vibrating energies and imprints and patterns and programs and implants and all those sorts of things, what is now coming into my awareness is much different than even several years ago. So that is very important, yeah.
So, if someone's had negative experiences with them, is there any advice you would give to them to navigate finding more positive experiences with higher vibrating entities?
Yeah, we always have to look within. You know, if we are experiencing something in our environment or our external awareness, it's always because it's matching up with something that's inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to take responsibility for that. And if you're attracting, you know, a lower vibrating entity, it's because you're allowing it in some way. It's magnetizing to you for a reason.
So this would be a type of fear that it's attracted to, or something derived from a fear as a negative emotion or thought form?
It could be fear. It could be distrust, it could be, any of those anger, any of those lower vibrating emotions that we hold within us. And it's not that as a higher vibrating being you can't have anger or express anger, but is it flowing within you, or is it locked up, that you're not accessing it and you need to access it, and so you attract something into your life, an angry experience or an angry person, so that you can access the anger that's been locked up inside of you.
There's also the idea of conflict or battling negative entities. Is there any advice for people who have had these experiences as a better way to approach it with understanding?
Well, I grew up in the church where there was casting out of demons. And my understanding now of that is that what you see in your external reality is reflective of something that's inside of you. So if you're seeing demons, you probably have some personal demons within that you need to deal with. And so that was something that I grew up with, and it was a thing that people were afraid of. There's a lot of fear around demons and that kind of energy. But when you free yourself of fear and you release the fear from your being, you no longer attract those type of energies to you. That's been my experience. So I've developed a belief based upon what I've experienced. Yeah.
So it's not about the energy of conflict, it's the energy of transmuting that releases you from these experiences.
Yeah, that's really important. We've done a discussion on transmutation because it is important when you are doing your inner work and you have something within you that is lower vibrating or something that you don't like. That transmutation work can be done to release yourself from those lower vibrating entities.
And so with that is the intention to learn the lessons that it's trying to teach you.
Absolutely.
What it's making you aware of, and then to have it transmute to the highest vibration of love and light.
Yeah.
And that can be done through whatever resonates with you, being either the sacred fires, the unified heart flame, or the violet flame, or you can give it to God or any other venue that people practice for this transmutation.
You have to hand it over for release. And if there is a lesson that you're meant to get from it, you have to understand the wisdom of it. You have to understand the lesson. Otherwise, it's going to keep haunting you. It's going to, it's not going to release from your being until you understand. If there is a lesson you're meant to get from it, it's not going to release until you understand what that growth opportunity is.
Now, what would you suggest for finding out what the lesson is? Is it something you find in meditation, or you go to a practitioner to assist you with, or?
Well, it's definitely easier when you're starting out. It's definitely easier to have a mentor, or a coach or something like that to provide some insight, because it's not always easy to get in touch with that, because there's usually a lot of convolution energy around what you're experiencing, and that thing, the entity or the implant or whatever, doesn't want you to get the lesson. And so it's definitely, when you're first starting out with this, it's definitely easier to have someone help you along on that path. Once you start doing it and you get the hang of what's going on, it's easier for you to do it, on your own, and to be able to get the lesson just by tuning into your own wisdom. But you need to have a certain amount of clarity before you can tune into your own wisdom in the midst of the convolution. And so you need to have done a certain amount of inner work to reach a certain level of clarity to be able to do that for yourself.
Now, people wanting to connect with their guides for guidance in life, do you have any advice for them on how to approach that?
Yeah, I would start off just by breathing through your belly because that will calm your body physiologically and that will enable you to rest your mind a bit, because it's really only in that quiet and the silence that those messages are able to come in. If you're filled with worry and fear and your mind is racing, there's no way that the light beings can get through that to speak to you, unless they're doing something dramatic, which is possible. Um, Another thing I suggest is going out into nature, because nature does have that wisdom and that peace. And when you're able to find that peace with the support of nature, then you can hear what your guides are telling you. And you may hear an audible voice, but chances are you're going to feel a sensation or a feeling, or you'll get a sign while you're in nature, a rainbow or a feather or something like that, that tells you, yeah, your guides are with you and they're supporting you and wanting to communicate with you. If you are attempting to communicate with your guides and you don't hear anything, that doesn't mean they're not there. It might mean that your system isn't attuned to their frequency yet, or you're meant to communicate with them in another way, or you're meant to really listen to your own inner wisdom. Sometimes, when one of the channelings Prime Creator said this, sometimes people are seeking these external validations and experiences when they're really meant to be tuning into themselves and trusting what is coming through their own heart, rather than having a guide constantly tell them what to do. And so there could be a variety of reasons if you're tuning in to your guides and you don't hear anything. Don't despair. That's okay if you don't hear anything. The important thing is that you are following your heart and that you're tuning in to that frequency, because your heart holds the wisdom of everything anyway. So that's the most important thing.
And anything about discernment? We've had some experiences where we know intuitives that get information, and then as it goes through their energy field, what comes through them isn't exactly the original message.
That's why it is so important to have a relationship and communication with your own heart, because if you are getting a message from your guide through somebody, the information does go through their filters and it can get convoluted. And so there might be parts of the message that really resonate and you feel, yeah, that's right on. And then there might be a part of the message where you're like, I don't know about that. Listen to that. If you have a red flag go up in your heart when you're getting a message through someone, listen to that. Pay attention. It's very likely that your intuition is saying, that part's their projection. That's not really the pure message for you.
So when you do get messages, read between the lines for what is for you and then leave the rest to be released.
Absolutely. Even in the channeling videos that I've done, every time it's my intention that the viewer is listening through their heart and being aware of anything that might be convoluted or being aware of anything that might be coming through my filters or judgment, because I'm human.
Or simply anything that's not for them, as we are all on our own timelines.
Exactly. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this conversation. My hope and prayer for you is that you are able to access the wisdom of your heart, and if it is appropriate and meant for you, that you're able to hear your guides, feel their love and support for you, and that you're able to communicate with them.
May you find clarity in all your connection and communion with your inner wisdoms.